Welcome back to the AI Ripple Effect podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Christopher Hinz, the founder and CEO of Red Wolf Logistics. Christopher, it's great to have you on the podcast.
So happy to be here, Johnny. Thanks for inviting.
As are we. We're looking forward to it. So why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we'd love to get into why you set up Red Wolf and what you're doing right now and what your plans are.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's keep it interactive. Feel free to interrupt or guide or change course however you'd like. So we have a great conversation today. But as you mentioned, I'm co-founding Red Wolf Logistics. We're a domestic freight brokerage that's focused on full truckload, partial truckload, and less than truckload ground transportation, focused on serving small to mid-sized businesses exclusively. And I got my start in the industry back in 2009 with a wonderful organization called Command Transportation, sort of an iconic company in our industry, very highly regarded still today. And I was an individual contributor there. I cut my teeth in the industry right out of college, got into it because of the entrepreneurial spirit that was promised. And if I'm being honest, the beer on the office on Friday was kind of a fun bonus at that age. But listen, I just kept my head down and really grinded there in the beginning, and eventually became a top performer in the company. I ended up developing the largest book of business in terms of number of customers that I served in the entire company, and was top of the leaderboard and all of the other important metrics. And this just taught me so much. It meant so much to me. Wonderful people there. I ended up leaving that company after the acquisition by a company called Echo Global Logistics, another really highly regarded company in the industry still today. They had acquired Command for about $500 million. And so I took a pivot. I worked for Transfix for about a year and a half, and then I joined Arrive Logistics to help start their Chicago office. Many people are super familiar with Arrive, one of the fastest growing companies to ever reach the $1 billion mark in our industry. So I helped found and lead the Chicago office, and we built that team from a small group of 16 to over 150 individuals in just a couple short years. I joined Capstone Logistics, worked with them for a few years as they acquired a company called Load Delivered Logistics, and helped guide that team through the acquisition. I did a lot of cross-selling with their last mile and warehouse management divisions. I've also spent some time in other corners of the industry, working in last mile, big and bulky home delivery, and for a global supply chain company doing ocean freight management, asset-based drayage, transload, cross dock, and pick pack ship services.
Well, fantastic. That's a great mix of experience and combining the big companies with the that entrepreneurial spirit, which I know we're going to get into a little bit more. So thank you for that, Christopher. So you launched Red Wolf in February, I think, of this year, right in the middle of a very turbulent freight market. What have you seen as the biggest challenges out there in terms of capacity, pricing, shipper expectations, seeing it?
Yeah, we really got started. My partner David and I really committed to this together in early March and did a lot of the important groundwork, laying the foundation, getting our authority from the FMCSA, and so many things that go into actually starting a brokerage the way that we are. We got our authority application completed in April, and really just starting to be foundationally ready for our operational start just right now. And so the industry has certainly been going through some interesting. It's been a freight recession for years. I think everybody kind of out there hated it when Trump used the word tariffs, and the world's kind of been wonky since then. We've seen a lot of capacity leaving the market, especially recently with what the administration's done in terms of non-domiciled CDLs and English language proficiency. Ultimately, for a freight brokerage, capacity coming out of the market tends to be a good thing. And so for us, we're hoping that it's assistive to our early start. And ultimately, we see that the landscape looking forward is one that nobody really can quite predict yet. I don't think there's anybody out here who can say, hey, this is the place and time where things are going to change. But my partner David and I, we were serious about buying the bottom. We said, hey, it's not going to get any worse. This is a great time to get in, get the operation going, get our team together, get our early customer base, carrier base established, establish our foothold, and we'll be in a much better position doing it that way to ride the wave when things start to change in the favor of carriers and brokers, as opposed to being too late and not in it at that time.
I know you said earlier that you're focused on small to mid-sized shippers. I mean, what trends are you seeing out there that could be shaping how they're thinking about their freight strategies?
Yeah, well, we love SMBs. When David and I first got introduced, we were talking, we were both thinking about the same thing. We were telling actually a mutual friend who brought us together that we both wanted to start a brokerage. And that person said, "Hey, you guys are saying the same thing. You should talk, see how it goes. Maybe you do it together, maybe not, but you probably learn from the relationship." Well, here we are, 8 months later, very serious about the future that we see, which is Red Wolf becoming a multi-$100 million company. And sky's really the limit. In terms of SMBs, we like SMBs because they're the fastest growing segment of the market. They're the most fragmented segment of the market. They're also the most profitable segment of the market. But what they really are is, and this is the truth of freight brokerage, is they're the most overlooked and underserved segment of the market. They tend not have access to managing multiple modes under the same roof. We don't really know what it is about truckload brokers that they don't like LTL, but we joke and say that getting a truckload broker to focus on LTL strategically is like getting them to speak Mandarin. They just don't do it for whatever reason. And so for us, that's something that was really important as we built Red Wolf, is to be both an LTL and truckload focused operation, but to serve a customer base that's largely overlooked and underserviced, to provide an elite enterprise level service, both from an attention perspective, a pricing perspective, a technological perspective, and bring that normal kind of blue chip experience to a small to mid-sized business that typically doesn't get and receive any of that. So that's our focus here, is really raising the bar for freight brokerage and helping the SMB shippers have an elite shipping experience for their ground transportation.
Really interesting. It leads into what's going to be my next question, which is, you talked about your extensive background, over a decade or more in the brokerage space. And how do you think the role of the freight brokers has sort of evolved? And where do you see the opportunity? I mean, you touched on a little bit of that, but now for particularly around innovation today.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the role is still quite the same. I mean, we're providing a service for someone that needs to move product from point A to point B. I would say when I talk with my close friends in the industry, of which are still individual contributors and doing fantastic. Some have gone on to bootstrap their businesses. Some have raised a little bit of money across the whole spectrum, but we laugh and talk about how much we were able to do back when with very little tools. We even go back to talking about Paul Loeb, who was the founder of Command Transportation. He used to tell our staff about a story where they'd have an actual like clothesline in the office, and they'd walk up to the clothesline and say, "Hey, what orders are up there? Who do we call?" Talk to their carriers with a phone with a cord. And you had to actually like do this 15 times to get the number dialed, which is pretty funny. But here we are today in a place in time where contact data, phone numbers, mobile phone numbers, emails, people's direct extensions is all at your fingertips. There's more technology than ever before to serve the brokerage and shipper and carrier communities. Things like vetting, onboarding, compliance, pricing, RFP tools, something as simple as those makes a huge difference in the life of a broker, really, especially with the transportation management systems that they're out there these days, these cloud-based systems. They're really agile, really flexible. They connect into essentially every tool that's out there. And so I think in a lot of ways, technology has progressed dramatically over a very short period of time. And looking forward, and one of the things that we're definitely planning to do is to prepare for 2030 today and be paying very close attention to what our industry peers are doing and what companies, even in other industries, are doing to leverage AI, machine learning, and predictive analytics in their business. We're working with a specialist group in this space. We're also closely watching and, like I said, preparing to deploy the agentic solutions in our business at the right place and time when we've mastered all of the systems and platforms that we're using, and we can do the things we need to do within those tools manually, to automate the no joy work and the repetitive tasks that our staff are doing inevitably every single day, to automate that so that our team has more time to invest in their relationships and tasks that need more personalized human to human interaction. So these are things like quote responses, order entry, appointment setting, tracking, and procurement. We'll have our ordering of those things, but that's something that will also evolve. And we're looking to get a lot of ROI out of those tools. So our industry peers who are using that stuff are reporting 30-40% efficiency gains. And that would be the same type of results that we're looking to also see, making our employees happier because they're dealing with less of the no joy work and are focusing on things they're more passionate about, but also benefiting all the stakeholders in our business significantly.
Oh, well, that's certainly music to our ears and Ripple, and certainly the core of what we're doing. But you touched on something quite interesting there, which is the human touch within the business. And, it's traditionally been very much about relationships. How do you think that, how would you approach sort of balancing the new technology AI with maintaining that human touch? And do you think brokers can adopt AI and still employees and customers feeling that value and support? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I do think that brokers can be successful in keeping the human touch there for the different stakeholders. I'm a believer in like returning to the mean, where I think there's going to be this rapid acceleration and we're all going to rush out there to not be left behind with the way that the industry is trending. But I think there does come a place in time where we say, hey, maybe we've gone a little too far. And where that comes from in terms of the feedback loop, I can't necessarily predict right now, but I have to imagine it's coming from the stakeholders that you're working with, the carriers, your vendor partners, your customers, maybe even in some cases your employees, to raise their hand and say, hey, yes, like this thing that I used to be responsible for that I no longer am, and here's why. That internal feedback and external feedback is definitely really important. That's probably the best answer that I have right now.
That's great. Okay, on sort of the subject of automation and AI, do you think that it's going to be a sort of democratize logistics for smaller carriers and shippers, or is it going to tip the favor towards the bigger players in the market with more resources?
I think both. I really hope it's the former more than the latter. Being a startup right now at this juncture, less consequential for those vendor partners to want to work with us and to be more favorable on the terms with us than they would be to maybe somebody else. But I can tell you from already having explored the space, there's a lot of inconsistency in the way that these companies have structured their pricing and their agreements. And I think that's ultimately good because I'm a big believer that the market will dictate the way that things should be. And I believe that will happen here. I think that the variety of the pricing models is encouraging in that way, but also that these vendors have already shown me that they also are willing to win business. So I think in the short term, it'll be maybe more democratized because they also need their MRR and their ARR to grow, and therefore they need to adopt customers and get customers into their business so they can grow the way they intend to. Whereas over time, especially as they do continue to acquire large enterprise customers that drive that, I guess, higher customer lifetime value and sort of perspective in their business, that they could probably shift over there. But if there's one thing that we know about our space and who our ideal customer is that there are always new entrants. I believe there will continue to be, new activity in that agentic AI space for our industry. And that's encouraging. It'll help there always to be a solution for the smaller, more emerging brokers. And quite frankly, I think what our industry peers are looking at and what we're looking at is really the cost of these solutions as compared to either a full-time W-2 employee, a 1099 contractor, or a nearshore offshore solution. So when you look at it from that perspective, I think there's a lot to drive the point that these are probably more affordable than people realize if they're willing to look at it as a comparison.
Fantastic. I want to take a step back in terms of your entrepreneurial journey. And you started off in March of this year. And what's been the kind of toughest lesson you've learned so far, and how has it shaped the way that you guys are building the business?
Well, it's a great question. I would say it's harder to answer in the way that it shapes the business, because the hardest lesson for me is not being able to operate with foresight and always having to look back and study the game film and say, hey, if I simply stated, if I would have known what I know now throughout the entire journey between March and here, I probably could have gotten everything stood up in twice as fast, if not three times as fast, quite frankly. But you don't have that. You just don't have that. You have to be in it. You have to experience it. You have to learn from it. And, the silver lining there in terms of looking that it just becomes that much more important for you to be spending whatever you have in terms of free time, if that even exists in your life, to be studying, to be researching, to invest more of your time and talking to more of your network, to pay close attention to what they're doing, what they're watching, what they're thinking about those things, but also to be mindful of who you take advice from and trust your gut and make your own decisions. And so for me, a lot of what that means is just really coming up and sticking to our plan and coming up with a list of things we're committed to, and researching those things very in depth and studying them and learning them a lot more closely because we're committed to them. And therefore, hopefully when we get to those places in time, we'll feel like there's not as much of a lesson of hindsight.
Fantastic. And what about the next 12 months? What's on the cards? What's the biggest goal for Red Wolf? Is that revenue? Is it geographical reach, tech adoption? What's going to be a priority?
Yeah, for us, it's execution and reaching like the early goals that we've set for the company. We're just getting started, literally. We're a true startup, establishing our foothold in the market with customers, shipping customers, with carriers. We believe that our growth is a function of who's on our team, our ability to collectively execute, and time. So if we fast forward 12 months and we've reached the goals that we've set, we're going to feel really proud about where we're at, and the future that we fully intend to attain is going to look a lot more promising and predictable than anything else. And so we're really just excited to get started, get our team going, and do just that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christopher. Final question, which of course inevitably is on AI. And on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is not at all and 10 is total confidence, how confident are you, Christopher, that AI is going to create a measurable value for your business in the next 12 months and then also in 5 years' time?
Yeah, AI broadly stated, I would say that it's a 10. I don't think it's something that people can ignore. I definitely think that it's something that you can very easily go too far with, and go too far with before you truly have the budget that it might require to support and sustain it. But I have no doubt that we're going to be very serious about the agentic AI approach that we're taking, and using AI, machine learning, and predictive analytics throughout our business. It'll be a big differentiator for us.
Fantastic, Christopher. That's been really engaging, interesting, and insightful. So, really, thank you for your time today on the podcast. If the folks out there want to get in touch with you and find out a bit more about Red Wolf, where should they go? What's your website, socials?
Yeah, you can go to our website, which is www.redwolfgl.com. And if you'd like to reach out to me very personally, just shoot me a note on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find, and I do my best to respond to all the messages that I receive as soon as I can. So just drop me a note. We'll connect. I'll be looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, we'll drop all the links into the description after the podcast, and we get that up there. But thank you again, Christopher. It's been great, and thank you everyone for joining today. And we'll see you again on the next edition of the AI. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Johnny. Take care.